What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugia, and happy Red Friday to all of you. Yes, you heard that correctly. We are doing the Chiefs Zone on a Friday, a Red Friday. So we are combining, this is one of the very rare occasions where we combine the Chiefs Zone podcast and the Red Friday Q&A live chat. So for those of you who listen to just the audio version, it is a treat for you guys on this Red Friday because we are combining the Q&A live chat with the podcast, something we don't do often, but there's been some significant updates since the Chiefs have last done, or since we've last done a podcast, and there's also been a little bit of an interesting story out there in the media. We're still taking your questions today. A lot of things to go over here. Want to talk about the news with Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs made a roster move that a lot of people were not expecting today, and some players and their game day designations from both the Eagles and the Chiefs have come out. There are a couple of people on the Philadelphia side that are out that could benefit Kansas City, but will that make a big difference ultimately? And does that impact my prediction for the upcoming big game? I'll let you guys know about that. Also, Matt Nagy had some interesting comments regarding Jawaan Taylor and what he needs to do in the next game and further beyond. And also, the public address announcer for the Kansas City Chiefs has resigned. And he elaborated, he opened up, explained what happened. It's a very interesting story. We've only heard his side of it. A lot of you guys responded to this. I was not planning on even discussing this, but because of how big of a story this is, I think it is something worth discussing. So we'll discuss that and much more here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Once again, I appreciate all of you guys joining me for tonight's show. Just want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by the Duran Cherry Foundation game day, celebrity tailgate event. That'll take place on September the 27th. That'll be on a Saturday. And then a couple of days later on the Monday and Tuesday following that, they have the celebrity golf tournament event. So if you guys want to work on your golf swing ahead of this event, definitely do so. You guys can get your tickets for the celebrity tailgate and the celebrity golf tournament events over at the DuranCherryFoundation.org. Just go to their website, look at the top. You'll see a few tabs. Just click on those tabs where you want to get tickets, and you'll be able to purchase your tickets over at the Duran Cherry Foundation website at DuranCherryFoundation.org. All right. Like I said, little time to waste, a lot of things to discuss here on this episode, and we will get to your questions. So if you haven't done so already, join into the chat, ask your questions below, and we will get to those as the show goes on. Let's start with the news regarding Xavier Worthy. This one, a little bit of a pleasant surprise this week. So we saw on Wednesday, Xavier Worthy did not practice. But on Thursday, Xavier Worthy practiced, and he was limited in practice, but still a pretty significant surprise, all things considered. At first, we heard this was a dislocated shoulder, and, from the research you do out there, it shows that a dislocated shoulder for a football player will take 4 to 6 weeks to recover if they don't get surgery. So the thought was Xavier Worthy was going to be out for quite some time, and that turns out that's not really the case. Xavier Worthy appears to be making progress. He practiced yesterday, and he also practiced today. Andy Reid said he practiced a little bit. On the injury report, he appears as limited. However, on the injury report for his game day status, he is listed as doubtful, which isn't a surprise. Listen, all things considered, the fact that he put on pads and a helmet twice this week, 2 of the 3 days, that is, I will take that. That is a big step in the right direction, and hopefully nothing's being rushed on anyone's end. I know on his Instagram, he wrote free one. Don't know what that means. I'm going to try not to look into that too much. I know we did that in the past with the Chris Jones contract negotiations deal. I know a lot of players like to put cryptic stuff out there on social media, so I'm not going to read into it too much, but he did put that out there. So that's certainly something to be aware of. But Xavier Worthy, I don't think he's expected to miss that much time. if he can come back in week 3 or week 4, I would say that's a big win for Worthy and the Chiefs. Perhaps dodge a big bullet right there with the injury where he collided with his own teammate, Travis Kelce. So hopefully his shoulder is getting better and he's continuing to make progress, because the Chiefs need him, man. They're already down Rashee Rice. They're without Jalen Royals, who has yet to practice since the regular season's gotten underway. And right now, the Chiefs are going to be without Xavier Worthy. I'm assuming he's not going to play. Doubtful is not 100%, but it's usually close to it. There's a chance, is what I'm saying, I guess. But Andy Reid said it's a slim chance. So I think it's safe to say he's not expected to play this week. And I see a lot of you guys coming into the live stream. More and more people. Appreciate you guys. Ask your questions below, whatever questions you guys have regarding this week's game. Also, I think it's worth talking a little bit about last night's game between the Packers and the Commanders, because I think the Packers deserve some attention right now. Yes, it's early, but I think they still have done a lot to earn their flowers in the early parts of the NFL season. So we'll get into all of that later on, and also the PA announcing thing. I do want to get into that, especially with how much interest this has generated in the last less than 24 hours, honestly. This is honestly one of the bigger stories I've ever posted about, where in less than 24 hours, it's gotten a really a big reaction from a lot of people. So we'll get into all of that as we go on throughout the evening. But as far as Xavier Worthy, him making some progress, I was not expecting this. I did not think there was a chance he would even play this week, let alone practice. So the fact that he's out there putting on the pads, the helmet, practicing, even if it's at a limited capacity, I think that's certainly a great news for Kansas City. Sounded like he was going to be out for quite some time. Does not seem to be the case. On the Philly side of things, Dallas Goedert, who led the team in receptions last week with 7, he has not practiced this week due to a knee injury. He's out for the game. Will Shipley, I talked about Will Shipley on the podcast earlier this week. I mentioned that this is a guy with his speed. He can do a lot of damage. And we saw it in the NFC Championship game against Washington. But due to an oblique injury, he has not been practicing, and he's been ruled out. Cam Williams, the tackle, is dealing with a shoulder. He was limited in practice on Thursday. I think he was not on the injury report Wednesday, but he appeared on it on Thursday, and he did not practice today. He's already ruled out for Sunday's game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. I will say the Shipley one, that's significant, more than I think some people realize. Yes, I know that is Saquon Barkley and his show, but whenever Shipley's on the field, man, that dude does some things that a lot of other running backs don't do. That dude's fast. He's pretty quick. Dallas Goedert led the team in receptions last week with 7. So when you consider that right there, and I know AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, they were both very quiet last week. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. But being without Dallas Goedert, I think that really helps Kansas City. It can only help than hurt Kansas City. You never want to see injuries, but these things happen sometimes, and teams capitalize on them. That's what they're supposed to do. I will say this, because I'm seeing it all week long. And you guys know my prediction already. I'm picking the Eagles 28-24 in this one. I hope I'm wrong. I was wrong in last week's Chiefs game. Maybe I'll be wrong in this week's Chiefs game too. But a lot of you guys are talking about how the Eagles defense has a lot of flaws, and they were exposed last week. And if CeeDee Lamb catches some of those passes there, Dallas probably wins that game. Yes, you're right about that takeaway from last week. Except the one big thing that a lot of people are not acknowledging, Jalen Carter did not play in that game. He obviously got ejected before the first snap of the game. First snap from the line of scrimmage, that is, for spitting on Dak Prescott. And even if you listen to Dak Prescott last week after the game, Dak Prescott said, yeah, we changed our game plan when he was no longer there. The Eagles' defensive game plan revolves around Jalen Carter. And sure, Quinyon Mitchell and the rest of that Eagles secondary, with how much they were struggling, yeah, it definitely looked bad on the Eagles side. If this was your first time ever watching football, if your first ever football game, first time you ever turned on an NFL game, if it came after that spit, and you knew nothing about Jalen Carter, your immediate thought would have been, oh, wow, this is a terrible defense. How in the world are they going to survive? Quinion Mitchell, the other quarterback, Adoree Jackson, both really struggled last week. Obviously, Cooper DeJean, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, especially playing inside for the Eagles defense. I'm telling you now, yes, Jackson and Mitchell were terrible last week, but with Jalen Carter back, that's going to help Philadelphia's secondary 100%. So all of the flaws that people want to point out about the Eagles defense, it's going to look different with Jalen Carter back. And by the way, a lot of people are not talking about this player, but Josh Uche, who played for the Chiefs last year, the Chiefs traded for him last year from New England, but because that was also the same time Charles Omenihu recovered fully from his injury and started playing for the Chiefs, we didn't see much of Uche. Uche in his first game with the Eagles looked pretty damn good. No Josh Sweat, no problem. No sweat. Uche's in there. And he had 4 pressures for the Eagles last week. Listen, I've always said the PFF grades, listen, you can take it or leave it. I think they're a nice reference, but I don't think they're always reliable. For what it's worth to you, he had a very high pass rushing grade from PFF. I think it was like a 93 something. That is pretty damn high, and he looked pretty good last week for the Eagles. So that's another player that the Chiefs have to be aware of, in addition to Nolan Smith, one of their edge guys. That's going to be Jalix Hunt, another guy. This is going to be a defensive line that'll certainly be better this week than last week when they played Dallas on opening night. So that's something to be aware of when keeping an eye on this Chiefs team, because as much as I hate to say the Eagles are going to win this game, I have some concerns about the Chiefs defense. And listen, let's say the Chiefs do lose this game. Okay. Show me something on defense. Even if it's a 17-14 game. Okay. Like I can at least look at this and say, okay, defensively, I think we made a step in the right direction, but I would look at the offense and say, okay, didn't score as much, but I would still be confident about the offense moving forward, considering they're currently without Rashee Rice and possibly Xavier Worthy. You're obviously without Jalen Royals. He's yet to play. So I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a Chiefs team that got off to a terribly slow start last week. Offense picked it up. Defense had flashes, not a lot of them, but a couple flashes. If they can figure out how to improve and not let players get open, because the coverage was awful last week, if they can figure that out, Kansas City is going to be a better balanced football team. That's something we spent a lot of time talking about this year, hoping the offensive line would be better. And by the way, with the Chiefs offensive line, rookie Josh Simmons, he's going to be tested in this one. Kingsley Suamataia, his first year at left guard, he's going to be tested. Jawaan Taylor, he's got to play better. And let's get into that. Matt Nagy was talking to the media earlier this week and was asked about Jawaan Taylor and all of his penalties last week. He had 4 penalties last week, 2 holding and 2 pre-snap penalties. And I think he mentioned, like, dude, he's got to play better. He's got to limit the penalties. Makes sense, because who do they sign in the offseason? Oh, that's right, Jalen Moore. How much are they paying Jalen Moore? Oh, yeah, $30 million in 2 years. You're not paying a guy $15 million per season to just ride that bench there, baby. Keep that bench warm. No, you're not paying anyone $15 million to do that. And listen, I think part of it is the unexpected surprise of Josh Simmons falling to them, but that essentially turned into depth for your offensive line, which is never a bad thing, especially when you've had offensive line problems the last couple of years. So Kansas City right now has to have Jalen Moore on speed dial. And I don't know who would be the first to go, because Jalen Moore has played some snaps at left guard in training camp. Now, I don't think he's played that in a regular season game, at least not a whole lot, but he's played some left and right tackle. Spent a lot of time at right tackle when Jawaan Taylor was not ready to start training camp. And I know Jawaan Taylor's gone through a lot, especially with the knee, but the knee was not an issue a couple of years ago when he had all these penalty issues. or last year. So right now, Jawaan Taylor, that guy's got to improve and really start dropping the penalties. If he does that, then maybe Jalen Moore is the guy who you just consider at left guard if Kingsley's continuing to struggle. But man, I'm not holding my breath on that. I don't know if Jawaan Taylor is going to be able to make it through this game. Remember, it was week 2 of last year at the left tackle position where the Chiefs yanked Kingsley Suamataia and put in Wanye Morris. So is it possible that Jawaan Taylor gets pulled out of the game and they put Jalen Moore in there at some point? I think there's a strong possibility of that. I don't know. My optimism level for Jawaan Taylor being the starter after the first quarter of the season, so essentially the first 4 or 5 games, not very high. Not very high at all. By the way, I see a lot of you guys commenting. Appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions, this is also the Red Friday live chat. We're doing the Chiefs Zone podcast and the Red Friday live chat together. So if you have any questions, drop them below. Let me know your thoughts on anything involving the Chiefs or the rest of the league. We'll get into that as we go on here. I do want to talk about the PA announcing drama because this blew up on social media. I posted this yesterday. I posted this 22 hours ago. This has more than 750 comments. It's not often I get a post that has this many comments within a day. And surprisingly, this is not about the actual football team on the field. This is something related to the state, more so the stadium production, media production, ultimately. Let me just give you guys my knowledge on all of this. So for those who don't know, I was the stadium DJ, the backup stadium DJ, and also the backup video board operator for the Kansas City Royals for 4.5 seasons. Now, there were a lot of guys who were not able to do every single game. So I ended up getting a lot. And because I was doing the music, the LED boards, the video board, I was able to get a lot of games. I was able to work a lot of games because people needed me to fill in on different days. So I had a lot of familiarity with the Royals and what they got to do. The DJ for the Royals, also the same DJ for the Chiefs. He knew he was going to miss some time. So he had asked me to just kind of shadow him for a couple of preseason games in 2018. This was Patrick's first year as a starter of the Chiefs. Not that it's relevant to this, but where the stadium DJ is for the Chiefs and the Royals, they're right beside the PA announcer. I will say this about the Chiefs. There are 2 public address announcers for those who don't know. There's one guy who does it during the game. That's good for a Kansas City Chiefs, and the crowd shouts first down. And then he also does the it's third down, which we've got to get to in a moment, that one specifically. And then there's another guy. I apologize. I don't have his name in front of me. I know I mentioned it, but I just don't have it. Nate's his first name. I don't know his last name. If anyone knows, because I think he does it for the Casey Curran and some other sporting teams in the local area. He's the other PA announcer. He does more of the pregame stuff. He'll introduce the cheerleaders, the drum line, Casey Wolf, and then during timeouts, he'll do the commercials. So if they're promoting a concert coming to Arrowhead or the FIFA World Cup, those kinds of things, that's what Nate does. Nate does the commercial stuff and the pregame stuff, and Dale Carter did do the in-game stuff. So Dale Carter posted on social media saying that he felt an enormous weight has been lifted from him. And said that he is resigning from the Chiefs as the stadium PA voice effective immediately. And he posted this 3 days before the season opener or the home opener for the Chiefs at Arrowhead, which was very interesting timing, but he does explain what happened. In his Facebook post, which to his surprise was making the rounds, especially with everything going on right now online, he does say that there was something that crossed his red line. His words, not mine. So he elaborated today, and I did not know this. Dale Carter is part of a country music station on KFKF here in Kansas City. So he has a morning radio show that he's a DJ on. And he elaborated. He said that the issue with him and the Chiefs And he's been asked to adjust certain things. Like Alex Smith had complaints that he was talking while Alex Smith was in the huddle. That makes sense. When I was the stadium DJ for the Royals, there was a specific pitcher, and I'll leave this pitcher out of it because, and not that it's a big deal, but they did not want me playing tunes or anything at very specific points while that pitcher was on the mound. And so they quickly got word to our department and they told me about it. I was like, okay, fair enough. And like, that's what the player wants. You gotta go with what the players want. So he's been asked to like adjust certain small things, which aren't really a big deal. But his biggest issue with the team, and he didn't elaborate as to what the issue was his third down call, his iconic third down call. For those who don't know, during games at Arrowhead, whenever the opposing team is getting ready for third down, he'll go, "It's third down," and they've got a nice reverb. It sounds nice. When you hear it through the TV, it sounds pretty cool too, if you pay attention closely. And he'll do the exact same thing if a team is going for it on fourth down. But I guess the team, upper management, and he didn't specify who, whether it was Mark Donovan or the Hunt family. And let me just say this. So, again, having worked for the Royals, I'm familiar with this. Sometimes upper management, whether it's ownership or the general manager, there will be something that they won't be happy with, or they just don't like, or they think is outdated and that it's been going on for too long. They will let whoever is responsible for overseeing that media production staff and say, "Hey, let them know we don't want this no more." And they don't ever provide a reason. It's their company, their house, their rules. So doesn't sound like, because everyone wants to know why, obviously, but that kind of thing just happens. But Dale said that he was approached during the playoffs when the Chiefs were getting ready to play the Texans, and he was told that he needs to change a third down call. And he was asking, well, what do they want to do? He was not given an explanation. He was just challenged to try something different, which is, by the way, Nate Herron. I appreciate those who mentioned that. Nate Herron is the gentleman, the other second PA announcer for the Chiefs. So he wasn't really sure what they wanted, so he just tried different things. Some people noticed, some didn't. He even tried the same thing in the preseason game this year against the Bears, and he never got feedback. Other like people who knew him, they noticed a difference, some of them, but he never got feedback. On Tuesday, this is where things got interesting. He was approached by his bosses, and they said that they need to talk about the third down call again. And they said it's an issue. Didn't say what exactly, at least from Dale Carter's side of things, but they were told, hey, let's have the other guy, Nate, let's have him do third down. And that was kind of a weird thing, according to Dale Carter. And I don't blame Dale for resigning if all of this is true. Again, we only have his side of the story. I'd be very curious to know if the Chiefs ever speak up on this. Some people are blaming the Hunt family. Some people are blaming Mark Donovan. We don't really know where this came from. But that iconic, it's third down, like that is, I mean, that's a pretty cool moment. Fans are already getting loud in that moment, but when you hear Dale Carter remind you it's third down, more fans get fired up for it. I mean, I get fired up just hearing it through the broadcast when watching from home. That's one of the more exciting things about the Arrowhead experience is having that third down call right there. But they want a change in that. Listen, I can understand his side of things because he even said it himself. Why all of a sudden is he now getting to do the game? Why are they having two PA announcements? Kansas City's attempt to push him out because he's been there for 16, 17 years. Maybe, I don't know. I can't really speak to that. What I will say is this. Sometimes change, a lot of change can be uncomfortable. Listen, the Chiefs had an iconic chant during a previous touchdown song they used, and they moved on from that. They moved on from War Paint. They tried to move on from the Tomahawk Chop. Fans were not really having any of that, and that's stuck around for now at least. We've seen a lot of things change. Obviously, the name of the stadium, everyone calls it Arrowhead, except for ownership, anyone that works for the team, but The proper name is GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. If you look at one side of the field behind, looking at Arrowhead from the outside, it no longer says Arrowhead. It says GEHA Field at Arrowhead, and some people have an issue with that. One of the spiral ramps at Arrowhead is blue because it's a sponsor from, I think, Community America. And Chiefs fans have an issue with that. They don't want blue because that's one of the primary colors for a rival team. There's been a lot of change at Arrowhead over the last 10 years that fans don't like. I mentioned the touchdown song change, the spiral ramp, the name of the stadium, so many things. And this is now another one of those things. I mean, look at the whole situation with the stadium. I know it's a Kansas, Missouri thing, but then there are some people that say, no, we want it to stay at Arrowhead regardless of state. Like, we just want the stadium to continue going on and on for forever. Listen, we've seen change in a lot of things. Let me give you another example. The Chiefs radio station, or the radio network, rather, they're no longer on 101 The Fox. They're now on 106.5 The Wolf, I think. And people were sad about that. It's the same broadcast. They're just changing the name of the radio station they're going to broadcast their games on. And look at other change outside of the Kansas City Chiefs organization. Like, look at The Price is Right. Bob Barker was The Price is Right. And, as uncomfortable as thinking about the show without Bob Barker, it still moved on and it's doing just fine now. There are a lot of organizations, companies from the public sphere, especially like media hosting and whatnot. We've seen so much change in, but they're still doing. I mean, the announcer for the Final Four is different now. So many things we've seen change over the years, and they're still able to move on from it. Again, it seems like a weird thing. Like, what is it specifically the Chiefs didn't like about third down? Apparently, and I didn't mention this before, but apparently Dale Carter was told that his call for the third down was viewed as cheerleading by the league. I mean, that's kind of the point of a public address announcer, right? Like, I've done public address announcing before, so I get it. So, for example, in basketball, whenever a visiting team made a three-pointer, you would say Josh Smith for 3. But whenever someone on your team made a three-pointer, you would say Josh Smith for 3. You give it more excitement, more ecstatic about it. That's the job of a public address announcer. So I kind of find it weird that they say the third down call is viewed as cheerleading, because that's the purpose of a public address announcer. I don't know. I think there's a lot more. Mickey says it'll all be Arrowhead. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the name of it. I mean, you look at the name. It says GEHA Field. When you're at the game, the PA announcer, whoever it's going to be now, they say GE. Welcome to GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. So I mean, listen. I know a lot of people are not always comfortable with change, but that happens. Listen, we might see a change in where the Chiefs play within the next 5 to 6 years. I don't know. Again, I know that's a big topic that's being discussed by a lot of people, but that is a possibility, whether people like to acknowledge it or not. So, listen, is it a sad story? Because Dale Carter, and he said this on his social media, he didn't do it for the money. He did it because he's a fan. He's excited. He loves the team. So it's sad to see someone who's passionate about what he does have to step away from it because of upper management, things that are going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. And I'd be very curious to know if Clark Hunt gets asked about this, or Mark Donovan, whichever one will be available to the media. Usually around this time, you don't ever hear from team presidents or team owners. So we'll see how that goes. But it definitely blew me away just how this took social media by storm. Dale Carter said it himself. He was surprised how this made the rounds online. A lot of people cared about this. So people had a lot to say. A lot of mixed reviews, mostly people supporting Dale and speaking up against the Chiefs, which you never want to see. But that's kind of how things go sometimes. there are changes made and guys are asked to do certain things and they don't like it. And you have the option. You can either stay or you can leave. And Dale's decided this is his time to step away and leave the Chiefs after 16 seasons. We're going to take a quick time out and give a shout out to our newest sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming to the Show Me State. New Missouri customers can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. And when we go live, just place a $5 bet to unlock $300 in bonus bets. Starting November 17, you can create your DraftKings Sportsbook app in Missouri and get ready for launch day on December 1st. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting on the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, let's go ahead and get to some of your guys' questions. If you guys have a question, you guys have something you want me to respond to, post it below and I will get to it. By the way, I do have 2 tickets to the game on Sunday that I am trying to sell. I've had a couple of people reach out, say they're interested, but have not paid yet. It's second row, I think section 112, very close to the visiting team's tunnel behind the end zone. So paid, what was it, $690 per ticket. Selling them for $900. That's a bargain deal for those 2 seats right there. So if you guys are interested, reach out to me on Instagram at Farzin Vasugian, because that is because my DMs are closed on Facebook. Just comment, DM me, tweet me, or if you're on Twitter, and I'll message you if you guys are interested. But that's $900, Venmo or PayPal if you guys have one of those. So no one's been able to. People have said they're interested, but no one's paid yet. So if you guys are interested, let me know, because I'm not able to make it to the game on Sunday. All right, let's get right into it. Sean says, actually, I think 28-24 Eagles win prediction over us is a good one. Unfortunately, I hope Bucky Brooks is right and we win 27-24. Listen, I'd love to be wrong. If the Chiefs win and we do our post-game podcast, which we will do this week, first thing I will say is I was wrong. You will hear those words come out of my mouth. They will be the first few words you'll hear on the podcast, which, by the way, reminder for Sunday, 4 hours before kickoff. Well, let's just do 11 a.m. to make it easier. 11 a.m. we will do our pregame live chat. Tune in for that. And then at halftime, approximately 4:15, 4:30, 4:45, somewhere around there, we will do the halftime live stream. It'll be quick. It'll be short, about 10 minutes. And then after the game, we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast live. So tune in for that. Join me after the game. I'll give you guys the link for you guys to do your video calls, and we'll chat it up after the game. So just a quick reminder on that. Bob says, I hope that the defense is ready because they sucked last week. We need protection for Patty. Hopefully we can run the ball so we are not so pass heavy. The running game, yes, does need to be better. Could be utilized a little more too, if we're being honest. But the 2 big things, defense definitely needs to improve, and the pass protection, specifically from the left guard and the right tackle, need to be better. That certainly needs to change. If the Chiefs can improve in those 2 areas, especially on really both areas, because Philly's going to be a better pass rushing team than the Chargers. But if the Chiefs can improve in both those areas by a lot, Chiefs have a chance. They've got a very good chance. Offense picked it up and started to get going in the second half. The Chiefs scored on every drive in the second half. I think a lot of people forget that. Kay says, I don't think our offense will be creative enough to expose the Eagles' defense, and our defense is not playing well. Let's just be honest. Yeah, that's my concern too. Did not think this would have been a concern, especially in the early part of the season. Is it possible the defense just had one bad game and that one game happened to be in week 1? Maybe. We'll see. Now, the zone defense instead of man-to-man, that was very interesting. So let's see if they change it up and do more of a man defensive coverage, because that worked out well for Kansas City the last 2 years. AJ Drummer on X says, will the Chiefs be able to sign Tyreek Hill at the end of the season if the Miami Dolphins don't make the playoffs or have a great season? And well, you can't necessarily do that. Like, you're talking like if they don't make the postseason, cut him and he comes again. No, you can't do that. That's not doable. Or at least in my understanding, I don't think it works like that. But Kansas City's got some contracts to figure out for next year. So unless Tyreek Hill is willing to play out of the goodness from his heart, don't expect that. John's asking, why are they not targeting Nico Remigio more? I mean, listen, he's low on the depth chart. I'd like to see Nico get involved. Listen, you want to see more of Nico Remigio, or you just want to see Nico Remigio on offense? You might start seeing that, John, because there's no Rashee Rice, there's no Jalen Royals. There's a very good possibility you won't have Xavier Worthy. I think there's a 99% chance you don't see him. I know that's very cliche, but it's true. So who are your wide receivers? And I'm going to say this off the top of my head. Hollywood and Juju are your top two guys. Tyquan Thornton, I think, is going to get involved more in this game for the Chiefs. Brownlee and Remigio. Those are your 5 wide receivers. So I think Remigio will get targets, not as much as you might like, John. And some other people I know who are on the Nico Remigio train, especially with what he's been able to show off with his speed on special teams. But I think he'll get some involvement in this game. I would be surprised if he didn't have a couple of targets thrown his way in this game. No different than the phrase, well, here's a guy, I'm talking about Chris Collinsworth, of course. Is Arrowhead going to be a World Cup stadium next year? Yes. Arrowhead will have 6 World Cup games, I think, is what they said. Yeah, and they've got that whole campaign thing going. Radio is a money thing. Yeah, it is. And having worked in radio, I get it. I certainly understand it. Lisa says, if the game didn't get called because of the weather, the Cowboys would have most likely beaten the Eagles. I believe the Chiefs have a good chance to beat the Eagles on their home field. Well, keep one thing in mind. Both teams looked stale in the second half. And again, remember, they did not have Jalen Carter, which had a huge impact on the Eagles defense. There were only 3 points scored in the second half of that game, and that was from Philly's side. So it wasn't like Philly, benefited from the rain delay or the weather delay rather, and Dallas didn't. I mean, both teams were pretty stale in the second half already. Super Bowl champions have farewell and rematch games the following season, winning all but 2 of the last matchups in the last 50 years. Well, there you have it. By the way, Mitch Holt has mentioned this. I did not know this. So this is going to be the first game in NFL history where the 2 quarterbacks who have beaten each other at least once in the Super Bowl will now have played each other after have beaten each other at least once. That I did not know. You would have thought Tom Brady would have had that. But no, Brady's been 0-2 against Eli. And he also lost to Foles, and everyone else he beaten obviously, like, Peyton Manning was probably his biggest competitor, but there was no way to ever play him in a Super Bowl because they're in the same conference. The post game on 106.5 The Wolf has way too many commercials. It's insane. Was better on 101. Okay. I don't listen to the radio because I do this after the game, so I'll take your word for it. Back in the day, they were on KCMO. Okay, I did not know that. Can't cheerlead, can't taunt, can't celebrate, can't this, can't that. Almost not football anymore. Yeah, see, here's the thing. Like, I know the taunting one is a big one here, and I can understand the sportsmanlike conduct, the strictness the NFL has this year. Like, if you spit on someone, yeah, not only are you a piece of shit human being for doing that, you need to suffer the consequences for it. Now, if we're talking, pointing at someone, come on, man. If you're doing the middle finger, the throat slash gesture, hip thrusting, any of those kinds of moves for taunting, yeah, I think that's grounds for a penalty and ejection from the game. But, man, the NFL is allowed. They have definitely loosened up on the celebrations, and that I'm thrilled to see. But boy, there's a lot the NFL is really strict on with the Chiefs. With the NFL. Like, loosen up a little bit. They're mad because the PA announcer for the Chiefs says it's third down. Like, what? Really? That's what the NFL is worried about right now? Dude, spend more time worrying about the fact that you're sending players 10, 15, 20 hours on a plane to go play an international game. Focus on that shit. What if we had a 10-year-old girl stand in as PA announcer this weekend? I'm sure fans will love that. LOL JK. By the way, let me just say something. I know you're being facetious, Sean, but I forgot to mention this. There are a lot of people online right now that are out there, trying to put their name in the hat. They're like, oh, I'd love to be a PA announcer. Folks, let me just tell you, that's not a job where you just show up and talk and read the script. A lot of people think public address announcing is just showing up and talking with excitement. Dude, the people who've been doing it at the pro level for pro sports teams, that means they've done it at the high school level for a long time. Or they've done a lot of radio. That's how I got a public address announcing job when I was in college. I did it for Johnson County Community College, and I also got to do it for KU athletics. I did it for KU soccer, and then I got to do one or two games, at least one volleyball game, because that public address announcer had to step away. He needed someone to fill in for that day. But man, it's not just showing up and shouting with excitement. People think this about voice acting for like video games and cartoons, anime. You don't just show up to a voice acting studio, put on the headphones, and go in front of the mic and just read lines if you're portraying a cartoon character. Like, that's not how it works. People think voice acting is just reading off a script. No, you have to know how to act. You're not acting in front of a camera, but you're still acting. People think that what I do, like, for example, podcasting and sports talk radio. People think that if you know sports, you can do a podcast or you can do a sports talk show on the radio. No, there are a lot of people who know sports, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of people who don't know how to host a good show. That is a big difference. A lot of people just don't see it that way. People think like the president of the UFC just creates matches and then puts the belt on fighters on the day of the fights whenever he needs to. No, the president of the UFC has a lot more responsibilities than just that. Layla says, I'm ready to see how the Chiefs are going to play Sunday. If they are hungry for a revenge game, yeah, make a statement in this game. Look, maybe you don't win, but don't get your ass kicked and show something. Obviously, from a fan standpoint, maybe you can view it a different way, but the team itself, dude, they want to win this game. Price is at $15.87 prime. Let's just say, if you're going for a party of two, expect to drop anywhere from $300 to $350. Party of four, $700 to $800. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier in the week. Do I agree with using 12 to 13 personnel? Well, it depends. Depends what packages you have. I thought we were going to see a lot of the 11 personnel with Rice being suspended, Worthy now hurt. You don't have that. The 11 personnel was something that we were looking forward to the most because of the wide receiver trio and then having Kelsey and then Pacheco. Obviously, that led to Hunt coming in, but that's because of all the injuries and you needed some help desperately. So, do I agree with using 12 personnel? Yes, especially with Noah Gray on the team. I think you'll see some of that with a couple of wide receivers absent right now on your roster. Yeah, for sure. I think 12 personnel is certainly reasonable to expect a lot of from the Chiefs this week. If it wasn't for CeeDee Lamb's drops, the Cowboys might have won that game. Chiefs need a lead in the first half. Yes, but John, again, keep in mind that Eagles defense was without Jalen Carter. I think there's going to be look, I'll give the Cowboys credit. They made it a close game, and they can't apologize that Carter acted like a knucklehead. But man, not having Jalen Carter made a difference. And that's the one that does scare me the most, if we're being honest here. Chiefs desperately needed a running game. Well, I think they got to utilize it more. Kareem Hunt had a couple of runs. Pacheco had 5. Like, and I get it. They were trailing for all of the game. They never tied it at any point, but utilize the running game a little more. Why won't Spags stop putting Connor in the slot? He played almost every snap in last game. He's done some good there in the past. Now, the secondary, listen, let's not put it all on Shamari Connor, Joshua. A lot of guys struggled in the secondary. Connor is part of that. I like Shamari Connor. I thought he did some good things his rookie year. Got more involved last year. This year, yeah, off to a slow start for sure. I totally agree. Being a PA announcer is a lot tougher than it looks. Got to know who every single player is, know the jersey numbers. Yes. See, there no stutter. Exactly, Sean. I'll tell you guys a funny story, actually. This is, junior college baseball. When I was a PA announcer for Johnson County Community College, and I do not remember who we were playing, the opposing team had a pinch hitter, and the guy did not have the proper jersey on. Now, I guess in junior college baseball, you can get away with that shit. Dude, he walked up to the plate and did not have a jersey number on. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to say. And the scoreboard operator next to me, I mean, he has to put a number on the board to say who's batting now. He had no idea what to do. So, man, that can be a little weird sometimes. Yeah, here's the other thing, especially at the junior college level, some PA announcers they're also responsible for playing music. I remember just having my phone right here, just putting it. They gave me like an auxiliary cord to attach, and it would connect to the speakers. They're like, yeah, dude, you're going to do the music. It's funny. For those of you who are familiar with Final Fantasy X, remember in the beginning when Tidus opens his eyes and he's getting ready for a blitzball game in Xanarkand? I can't remember the name of the song, but it's the same song in the final boss fight, like Brasco's final Aeon. But it's that high upbeat song. I actually played it in pregame, and I saw a couple of basketball players doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Got some Final Fantasy music here. People are digging it and like, yeah, okay, yes, cool. All right, sweet. But yeah, man, public address announcing, once you've done it enough, it becomes second nature. It's pretty easy to do. But yeah, as you said, Sean, and I'm glad you mentioned the stuttering part, it is pretty difficult. You got to do a lot of reading. In fact, I remember for KU, I was reading, I think we were promoting a volleyball game at our volleyball court, which is next to Allen Fieldhouse. The name of the arena is Horesh. If I showed you how it was spelled, you would never pronounce it correctly. And my boss realized we never went over this. And this is my first time reading the script, so I'm reading it for the first time while talking for a KU soccer game. He actually whispers while I'm talking. He goes, Horesh. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, thank God he told me that. And I'm like, oh, by the way, I got to keep reading. So yeah, you gotta be able to multitask, man. That is not easy. I'm telling you now, sometimes you'll see, you'll see TV people have an IFB or radio host, TV host, whatever. And sometimes there are people talking in that IFB, in that earpiece, and they have to focus on the camera and they have to focus on talking into the mic and also focus on paying attention to what's being told. Because sometimes they're told, hey, hurry up, you got 10 seconds left, whatever. People don't realize that stuff, man. Like, yeah, sure. I know you can talk. I know you know sports, but when you have your headphones on and your producer is saying, Hey, Mike, you got 30 seconds left. Hey, Mike, you got to mention that read for DraftKings or whatever. Like, you got to you got to know a lot of things that are happening at once. Not easy as it looks sometimes. All right, that is all for the questions. This was obviously combining the Chiefs Zone podcast and the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Red Friday. I'm going to get out of here, but before I do, quick reminder, we are going to do the pregame live chat 11 a.m. Central Time. So come back here, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube X, wherever it is you prefer to listen. We will do the the pregame live chat 11 a.m. Central Time. Then we will do our halftime live stream as soon as the halftime period begins on Sunday. And then after the game, as soon as the game goes final, we will do the Chiefs Zone podcast. We'll recap the game. I'll have the link for you guys to call in for the video chat after the game. We'll do all of that afterwards. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I will talk to you all later. Take care.